Okay, what do you think? You guys can see my screen, right?
Ooh.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like that you put all this stuff on here.
Yeah, I
Yeah?
have to make it look crazy.
I don't know why I think the word crazy is so funny, but I always do. Good. I don't really have much to say about it. I mean, you really worked on it, and that's my main thing, is you just kept improving it. All you guys, I think, pretty much did. Good. Improved it. Another one. Where are you at? Where's Emily?
Here.
What do you think?
I added some texture onto the
Oh, yeah.
pancakes, but I'm not too sure how visible it is.
I don't think it needs to be like overboard. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fine. Again, improvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is all I can ask for, really. Oops. So I gave you guys, oh yeah. That's great, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I had fun with this.
There's something about this program to me. It's like, yeah, I love drawing and just painting and all that, but there's something about this program that I find it's almost like, I think it's like what other people get out of video games. Like I love putting it together and playing with it and figuring out solutions and all that kind of, I don't know why. It's a little, because it's such a different process than just straight drawing or painting that it feels a little different. And I don't know why, it just feels like putting a puzzle together or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like making the puzzle and then putting the puzzle together at the same time.
Right.
I don't really have any comments on it. And what we'll do in a little bit is we'll go full texture. And we'll do something organic. Like a lot of times it'll be a national parks poster, or I mean, I let you guys pick it, or a travel poster where we really go after textures in relation to organic objects like bark and all that stuff. Does that make sense? Yeah. And also creating images that look much more brushy, where everything looks sort of brushy like a painting.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on, Josh. That looks great.
Cool. Thank you.
That looks really great. I like the colors too.
Yeah, it ended up being pretty different than the color comps that I had done. But you know,
that's pretty common.
I think it works. Yeah.
I mean, the only time that would probably be a problem is if you pitched it to a client and you go, "This is what it is."
Right.
But I mean, if they're an actual creative client, they'd probably be like, "Yeah, that's fine." I mean, I wouldn't care. I'd just be like, "That's fine." The only time I'd care about that is if I gave you a style guide and I go, "Stay within this palette," you know, because it's more tangled or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, you know, I don't know. I mean, I was always, or I am always been pretty open about. Somebody's got a better idea. I want to go with that idea. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you can, you know, most of the time, if you're working with good people, they're going to have a better idea, you know, or they'll push it, you know, or whatever. Oh yeah, that's cool.
This is really cool.
Thanks.
It looks so nice.
Yeah, I still need to finish the people and add a little bit more highlights, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with it.
Good. Now what I might do is just maybe get one little layer. I don't know. This is just, so when I get it this far, then it's really just like, ooh, can I do this? Can I do that? And then I have to make sure I don't overdo it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I might even put this underneath that. Hang on, let's see if I can do that. I'm gonna see if I can put this underneath this. There it is. Yeah, cool. So let's go. Wait, maybe not. Hang on. Maybe I need to be. Maybe I'm going to be up here. Hang on. Come on. Where? So let's try it this way. I don't think that color works. I'm going to try this color. I might try and line this up. And I'd probably have to lace it in here a little better. I'm going to get rid of this just so we're not looking at this here. I might see if I can lace. That's way ham-fisted. I'd have to really adjust this, but I might see if I can lace a little bit of foam on in between there a little bit. Does that make sense?
Between the hole and of the no the hole, I shouldn't say the hole. The bubbles.
Sort of
I
like
guess.
this. And I don't know, and I would go in and try and work it out. That's not worked out yet. But sort of like just that one layer. Now it gets a little of this laced in there.
Mm-hmm.
I might just do a little of that, just a little. Does that make sense?
Sure. How would you do that though? With this, are you talking about put it on top of it or like
Yeah, it
outlining?
lays across the surface, and I'd have to figure out the language of it,
Mm-hmm.
which I might even freehand it. But and I would try it and see if I can make it work. Like for one thing, I'd probably try and what I usually do is I just look at how things work and I go, okay, how do I emulate that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really just foam. It's just dialed into the foam a little bit. And I don't even know, can it even cover some of it? I don't know. And it would have to be organized. It can't be, it has to, what I always look for is the language of how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll see if I can kind of tweak it a little bit. And it might not work at all and then you don't need it. But I think you could probably get that in there. That's still not right. It would have to be more that I'd really have to go in with my width tool and get it just the right thin thickness.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because that way it'll break this up one more layer. Yeah, I like this. I like this little this like unified, whatever you call it there. Shadow.
Shadow.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm surprised. I didn't know I could do this at the beginning of the semester.
What's really interesting about all these things, not just the Illustrator, how hopefully you're seeing, I'm sure you did with this, how you're bringing in your other skill sets and things you've learned and stuff you know, and then you're bringing in all these other things, like understanding some lighting and all that kind of stuff, and then you can bring it into this or whatever, and you're starting to apply it to things, correct?
Yeah.
That to me is the big thing, because if you don't do that, I was just complaining about this to Frank this morning. Because I'm always seeing stuff online, and what I'm actually looking for is things that pop out at me where things that we can address. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So one of them that's really driving me up the wall lately, it's always driven me up the wall, but it's getting more intense on me because I'm seeing it, is lack of design. And I'm really blaming the teachers for that. Because it's like, you guys aren't talking about design at all. Like what you're doing is going, hey, take this exercise, which is a good exercise, by the way. It's an exercise I think is a good exercise. But then it's like, okay, where's the design in this? What's happening is, and it's mostly with entertainment students, they're looking at this stuff, and let's say John Park, I think that's his name. Almost all that guy draws is like mechs, right? But they look pretty believable and stuff like that. And he just does endless pages of them. I'm guessing he's probably a trans designer at an art center or an industrial designer at an art center. So he has a working knowledge of how these things work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which is why they look believable, right? So now what we're getting, and it's not just here, it's just everywhere. They're looking at, I don't know, big stupid robots or something from a movie or whatever. And then they go, oh, I want to do that. So they go and they're copying that. So that means it's never going to be that good because you don't really understand the underlying fundamentals of it. And they're just trying to make it look like that, where it's like, that's not how you get to do that. How you get to do that is you learn about design and draftsmanship and all that stuff. And then you could do that. But what they think the way to learn that is, oh, I'll take this entertainment design class because they'll let me do like mechs and stuff. It's like, okay, but they're actually poisoning your skill set. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Dig down into the design, not into the surface nonsense. And also, and I know I've said this in here, but get in front of more sophisticated design. Stop looking at that crap constantly. Does that make sense? Stop looking at that stuff. It's fine, but it's like what I'm seeing, and it's mostly entertainment kids. That's all they look at. It's all they talk about. It's all they care about. You know, here's my character. It's like, it's not your character. It's just another take on another crappy whatever. Get into the design. That's how you learn how to do that. The design, the drawing, you know, painting, design, all that's the design, drawing, and painting. Boom. That's how you're going to do it. Right. And then understand, how would I make this thing? Like the one I saw this morning, it was the stupidest design I've ever seen. Okay. And I would like to talk to the student about it, but it's like, so this is your solution? Like, is that a telescoping rod coming out of this thing? That's just a stupid idea. In other words, you're going, I'm going to put a wheel on this thing and then this, and now I got to make it stand up. So I'm just going to put a big rod right here. And it's like, okay, number one, it would fall over this way. Number two, nobody would ever use that solution. It's stupid. And you're just making these sort of childish decision-making about how this works. Does that make sense? Instead of going, okay, it's a robot. Maybe the protruding thing's just like a human. If you fall, you're going to you might land on something protruding like an elbow, right? And you break an elbow or whatever. Maybe I'm going to design those so they're flexible, but the part that goes over it is, you know, like a Teflon-y, plasticky kind of thing. So if they fall, it takes all the scuffing and all the damage because it's not really going to get damaged, right? Like that kind of stuff where you're thinking about, you know, how does this arm move? How does it bend? Like that's another one. How does that just bend? Can I do this? Or is it going to be, you know, or is it function based? Right? I saw a really interesting video years ago and it was some robot thing that they were going to put up, I think like in the space station or something. And they go, here's, you know, it's this robot arm, right? It doesn't look superhuman, but it's, you know, it looks like an arm or whatever. And it goes, okay, so it can use a variety of tools and it can like tighten bolts and all that kind of stuff. Because that's actually hard to do in space because you don't have any leverage. Does that make sense? Right? You don't have any leverage. So, you know, when you're putting a tire on, you brace yourself. And, you know, it's hard to do that in space. There's no gravity, right? But anyway, they go, here it is putting on, you know, a bolt, like tightening a bolt. It was interesting because you think it's going to go, you know, like a ratchet, right? And it doesn't, it did this weird motion where it went around and it went over itself like that. So it just did a continuous 360 because it's engineering, right? And that's the kind of stuff you got to build into your design thinking. You got to go, what is this for? What's the closest reference point I can find that I can start to study a little bit? And I get all that knowledge and everything. And then I go, okay, I think I can kind of figure out, make this believable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not just stick things on it. That drives me crazy. That kind of stuff drives me crazy.
What do you think you need to, I don't know, because you were talking about how that's kind of a problem in the program. Do you think that there needs to be a class that just specifically talks about from the ground up, focusing on what the functionality of this item is and then designing from there?
Well, I've got in curriculum, I've got like 2 product design classes, product design sketching and then toy design.
Right.
I'll be able to speak to that a lot in that class because it will have a real world purpose. And then like how you going to manufacture that. Does that hit the budget? How's it going to work? You know, because what happens is you get all these students and they go like, I like to do this project. Actually, Norm gave us, and I thought it was a good project years ago. And we went to City Walk. And so, you know, it's 100 years ago. City Walk, you know, it's cool. But then there's certain things where you go, that's not cool. You know what I mean? Like the Hard Rock Cafe. I go, because he goes, pick something and I want you to redesign it. And I picked that. I picked the Hard Rock Cafe because I go, that building's boring, man. It looks like strip mall architecture and it's supposed to be this cool thing. So I redesigned it. We do that. So I did that project over the city. What's that called? The Block, right?
Oh, yeah.
With my students. And I go, I want this to be real world. I want you to think about budget. Just think about it. You know, how can I create this where it would actually be doable? Where if I went to the client and I go, hey, you're going to get this much bang for your buck, and it makes sense, right? And I know they can't figure out all the budgeting yet and all that. That's fine. What do I get? This person picked the Chinese restaurant. It levitates in space. Like, that kind of shit just makes me crazy. It's just like, really, that's your solution? And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that solution. Like I go, hey, we're going to do a cityscape. They don't even know how to do a cityscape. Never done it before. Don't really understand perspective. And then what do I get? Bunch of levitating, really badly designed, stupid buildings. And I'm like, what are you, 14 or 7th grade? I mean, this is such a stupid solution. And I asked you for a real world solution. You give me levitating buildings? I mean, that's a design problem to me. That means you can't think within the real world, nor do you want to. You just want to make cheesy fan art stuff. And it's sort of separating the wheat from the chaff there. You got to go, okay, who's serious here, who actually wants to be an actual designer and employed? And who are people who just want to make up silly, whatever that is? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Believability, right? Look at this guy here. I know I'm on a tangent. I'm sorry. But
No, it's fine. I always appreciate the tangents of the
it
rants.
doesn't matter what
Let's
you're
do it
in.
with Frank.
It doesn't matter what you're in. Just like we're just talking about with Josh, I go, the only thing I might say is if I asked you to stick within a pallet or something, right? But most of the time I'm not going to do that really, unless it's a licensed property. I'm just going to go, give me something cool. Look, here's a guy. I don't even know if he still has a web page out there. Yeah, I think this is it. Okay, cool. What happened? Oh, here we go. Hang on. Oh, great. We're getting a new home phone system, which means I won't know how to use it. Hang on.
I set up a little late.
Wow, he's really. Hang on, let me go back. Yeah, here we go. Like this guy's stuff looks believable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you look at that, you go, okay, that, because this feels like if you go in and look at, and this is probably what he looked at. He probably looked at, and number one, I think this guy's also an industrial designer, I'm pretty sure. But he also probably looked at, where would I start? I would go, I go here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I go here. I go to the headwaters. You know where students go? They go look at Star Wars. They go look at Transformers. They go look at all kinds of cheesy, stupid manga stuff with mechs in it or whatever they call it. Right? No, you go here. You go to the headwaters. You go, how does that arm bend? Look at that. Right there's your answer right there. There's a answer, so on and so forth. I go over to that company.
The Boston Dynamics.
Boston Dynamics, that's it. There's also one called, they don't do robots though.
Oh, I love that robot dog. It's so derpy.
Yeah, so I go here and I'd start looking. They have a whole bunch of robots that they work on. Not only that, I can see them in motion. I can slow it down. I can go, how does that all work? And I'll rip some of that stuff off and make sure that I keep the believability and the workability of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Boston Dynamics. Here we go. Look, if you look at this, it looks very similar to this. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
He's just pushed the fantasticness of it, right? You like my grammar? Look. Yeah, I can get some believability built into these joints. And then I'll robust it up. I'll make the feet bigger. I'll make them look badder, change the posture, all that kind of stuff to, bulk it up, whatever I need to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on and so forth. Go to the headwaters. Stop looking at other. I don't even find that the only time entertainment design is really interesting to me is if I'm working on something, I'm getting paid. You know what I mean? I mean, I love industrial design, but okay, anyway. This looks great, Kayla.
Thank you.
And I love it when you guys go, I didn't know you could do that. Well, you can. What do you think?
So that's a lot of work to do. Right
Yeah,
now
but
I'm
you
just
handed
doing
it in
kind
so
of,
you can do it.
yeah. I'm just working on like the shadows after this.
And by the way, I'm probably going to mark this as an A anyway, because I
Okay.
know how much you're working on it and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, you can hand it in and up it, and we can talk
Mm.
about it.
Mm.
One of the things I'd get in here is however I'm going to handle.
I do have a question on like the angle of the sand on the top right side.
Hang on.
Like I made like 2 levels of the sand sloping down, but it looks kind of weird on where it touches the guard.
Hang on. Because I would work out all these breaks. Dial in a blue. Oops. I could start dialing these in. I'd have to dial this way. I'd have to tweak it out, but
Mm.
you know, if I put this in here and then I started breaking this surface right here, you know, letting those other things get a little more underneath this, get a little more silhouette-y. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I could start, and I'm doing this really half-assed, but you know, and then put a little ripple where he's breaking the surface, sort of like we looked at that one in Norm where he did that alligator like that.
Yeah.
And dialed it in a lot better than I just did. Okay, so what were you saying?
I had a question about kind of like the angle of the sand on the top right corner. Like the where it touches the guard, like the wall, it looks kind of weird to me.
Here?
Yeah, kind of there. Yeah. It looks
I
kind of
think up
off.
there, I would probably have very little going on. It would be mostly
Okay.
clustered here and just break off up there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because what you want to do is you want to make sure all this information you're putting in here is organized.
Mhm.
Now, one thing that's going to organize it a little bit is if you put a surface water over it, you know, and then let things sort of break through the surface and all that stuff can become reduced, you know, very monochromatic under the water, right? There'll be a little color, but it goes monochromatic, right? You can probably find an overlay that'll do that. And then where it breaks the surface, you get, so that'll help you organize all that information under there. Cause right now it's a lot of information.
Yeah.
So make sure you're keeping that information organized. But I think the water surface will help that. Okay.
Okay.
But out here, I wouldn't put a whole lot out here. I might put one or
Okay.
two things, but that's it. Like if, did you have basic design?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if they talked about this, but the idea of organization or clustering and then dissipating, did they talk about that?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, right? So I
Okay.
can have a little bit of a cluster in this in the foreground a little bit, not too much. And then as it goes out, it's going to kind of dissipate off a little bit and break up a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It'll give you a focal point and then it, you know, and it's sort of the same idea as atmospheric perspective or things going off and getting smaller. It's just another way of sort of organizing visual information the same way, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just keep going, finish it off. And what's your major?
Graphic design.
Yeah. And how much illustration have you done?
I just took like a basic drawing class like
Oh,
a couple of years back. That's it.
okay, so you need to pursue this also, correct?
Mhm, yeah.
Like this illustration stuff you're doing. I mean, you have some skill in that. You see that?
Mm, yeah.
And one of the reasons I love getting graphic designers in this class is because a lot of times they don't know that. Sometimes they're doing like this, where I get a lot of graphic designers in here that just do a great job, and you're like, look, you've got an illustration thing going on here too. Maybe it's a graphic illustration kind of thing. Makes you
Yeah.
much more valuable as a graphic designer. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Much more valuable. And here's a good example of this. When I would look at portfolios, here's the mistake people make. If I was, I don't know if I've ever said this. I don't think I have in here. If I was looking at a portfolio and I was hiring, sometimes you'd be hiring a sculptor, sometimes you'd be hiring, you know, whatever, industrials and whatever. Sometimes you'd be hiring a graphic designer. I'm always looking for a little more if I can get it, because then I'm hiring 2 for 1.
Mhm.
So what you get is here's where they make mistakes. I'm looking at their book and I'm going, yeah, this graphic design's nice. And you're going through it and yeah, this is good. And then I get to some point in the portfolio and says illustration. And it's got drawings from like basic drawing. It's not illustration. Okay. It's like, and it always kind of offended me a little bit, because I'm like, I'm an illustrator, dude. This ain't illustration. Like, don't put this in your portfolio and tell me it's illustration. It's shit from basic drawing. Like, how do you think is going to be impressed with this? Like, nobody. Okay.
Right.
And I'd always tell them the same thing. I go, you know what? You had me sold here until I got to illustration. And they're like, what? And I go, come on, these are drawings from basic drawing. This is what you think is illustration? So here's my problem. You don't understand what illustration is, which makes me suspect of your graphic design background, because you don't have a sophisticated enough mind to know this is not illustration. These are just basic drawings. Like, and I go, you should just left those out of your portfolio, because you had me sold. This unsold me. Take those out of your portfolio, right? And then I have the opposite thing where I get to the back of the thing. Half the time they don't even say it's illustration. I just start moving it, and it's like graphic illustration, like stuff you're doing, you know. And I get all turned on about graphics illustration. I love it, right? And then that does the opposite of thing where it's like, oh man, I've got all these graphic design people that just do straight graphic design. This person's killer at that, and they have this skill set, which means I can take things off of other people's plate. I can take it off my plate, and I can hand it to them. And now I've hired 2 for 1. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So like, and then and just like you're doing with this, pick things like that. Like you ever, you know what? Like the zoo, the LA Zoo. I think I mentioned this last time. I tried to find them. I went to the zoo one time. They had those, you know, they had those big banners that hang from like the lights and stuff. And there were these bitchin' vector, you know, animals or whatever, you know,
Right.
LA Zoo, whatever it said, I can't remember, or nights at the zoo in the summer or whatever. They were so cool. And they just read like crazy. You know what I mean? They're fun and they're colorful. I just went through the village up here a couple days ago, and they have those same kind of banners hanging there, except some idiot, because it's not a designer, it's probably just somebody's nephew or something. They picked some old picture of the village from like, I don't know, the 40s, which is fine. But they picked some picture where you look at it, you can't even make out what it is. It's just, it's not designed to be seen from 100 feet away. It just turns into nothing. I couldn't even tell what it was. I had to get way up close to it, like right up underneath it and go, oh, you know, no understanding of visual language, no understanding of visual communication, no understanding of anything. And by the way, it pissed me off even more because I went to them years ago and I gave them a whole proposal. I go, because I didn't even care about making money out. I just live in this community and I want the community to be successful and I want the businesses to be successful. And I go, why don't you let me rebrand the village? Because look, here's what I would do. And they go, oh, well, we got somebody that does it. And I sent her back an email and I go, I know, and it's really not good. I go, I'm trying to give you something that's a lot better and actually communicates, because the stuff you have is horrible. Because I don't care. I'm not looking for money out of them. I don't care. I actually just wanted to fix something. You know what I mean? But they were too stupid to do it. And now the thing they've now gone to is this horrible solution. Right? And then on top of that, it's like, what are you messaging to me? I'm already in the village and you got a picture of the village up there, Lake Arrowhead Village. I'm already here. So why don't you give me a variety of different ideas of things I can do in the village? And I can illustrate those in a fun way, bright, colorful, cool, where people's eyes go there and go, oh, I didn't know they had a wine bar here. Oh, I didn't know they had this here. I didn't know they had that here. You know what I mean? Oh, I didn't know they had summer concerts here that are free. Why would you just tell me, hey, Lake Arrowhead Village? I know I'm here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Use this skill and take things like this. This is a perfect thing to use. The aquarium, it's a great thing. The zoo, LACMA does really bitchin' posters and they have a great show going on. You know, think of things that, you know, make sense. And you did. Think of things that make sense in that world. And then when you do this, like totally tweak this out and then go, okay, now I'm going to do that idea of like, how can I reorganize this to go in a banner? Or maybe I take some elements out of it and create a banner and then, you know, go get a nice clean shot of those kind of banners, clear them off, put your stuff in there and do a whole environmental graphics presentation. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the way you think, you dig into things.
Thanks.
But what's good about it is you don't do it in a way where it all ends up stiff. Okay, because some people do. But you're looking at, like, this is what I like. You're doing exactly what I was just talking about. You go here, you go here, you go here, here. You didn't just go and find somebody else's illustration of the same thing and copy it, which is what a lot of people do, right? And you got to be careful when you go do your research that you don't go, like, I actually try to avoid looking exactly what I'm looking at. You know, I just go to the headwaters like this because I don't want to see something where somebody came up with the perfect solution and then I can't get it out of my mind.
Right.
You know, where I'm going, God, that's a perfect, and I just keep wanting to do that because I'm like, that is so good. I got to get it. I got to wash it out of my brain now, you know, and it can screw me up. Okay, good. What other class do you have right now? Classes?
I'm just taking the independent art class with Steve.
What's that? Oh, with Steve?
Yeah, I just we're just doing a personal project for like my portfolio.
How's that going?
Well, I'm doing kind of like a side illustration before I started this semester, but I do have 2 things up on my Behance. But I mean, that's the only thing I have right now for my portfolio.
Where's where are you at? Where's Raphael, where are you at?
Right here.
Nice, you kept working on it, yeah?
Yeah, I had trouble with like the brushes and like the JPEGs, but I was able to work around it. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I wanted to add more texture and stuff.
Watch your direction, your shadows, but that's another discussion. I don't care about that.
Okay,
You know what's cool is that you soften this up back here.
thanks.
Like you started thinking about that after we had that conversation, you actually pushed it further.
Mm-hmm.
And see how that pushes that way back there?
Yeah, gets that horizon view.
Yeah, atmospheric perspective. Go look at where you started with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's night and day, man. That's what I want.
You said like a focus on like the shadows, right?
Just how they lay. They're gonna lay it, you know, they're gonna radiate out. That's a perspective thing. I don't want to get all crazy with that. For me, I don't care in here. Because again, that's perspective. I might take a brush here, along here. And maybe, just maybe, you know, I might go find a gouache brush or whatever. And just break up the edge of this road.
Okay.
Not that much, just too much.
Like to make it seem like there's dirt on the road, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm really weird about transitions. I shouldn't say I'm weird. It's just something, it's another thing I don't see anybody thinking about. And I understand it when you're first doing this, I get it. But, you know, things, I want to soften things up if I can, like on the edges like that. I could do this with one of the gouache brushes maybe. I don't know why it's not letting me. Hang on. Oh, I know why. If for some reason it won't pick up the actual brush, I have to go back in and do it. Yeah. You know, and I'd probably knock that down a little bit so it's not sticking out so much. I'd probably get it closer to this color. It's probably because I'm on top, I think.
Okay.
You know, maybe I just pull it down a little bit. Yeah. So it doesn't stick out so much. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. See how it just softens that?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I might do. Is that a JPEG?
No, I had to work on my other file and then I clipping masked the whole entire thing to make it.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
I'll just do it this way. Hang on. I'll just make a quick. I would just use the existing shape, but since I don't have it, I'll just do it this way. I'll make wash brushes here. Okay, so let's go. Come on. There we go. Okay, so let's go. Now I'm going to take another line. So I'm going to use this as a mask. Come on. There we go. Let's go. Yeah. Come on. And then let's go a little. Now I could add a little warmth into this. Come on. Let's see if I can go. And I might even put a second one on there. Maybe too much. Or I might go, I'm going to put a little bit of. Needs to go a little lighter. You know, I could start to get some texture on here, yeah?
Yeah.
Too much. But then, you know, maybe it's not, that's 2 points, so that's huge. See that?
Yeah.
Like that, maybe.
Yeah.
Make sure that my line. Yeah, good. Really good. I love it when you go from one place to all you guys did though.
Thank you.
Still, I'd make this bigger still.
Okay, yeah, that's one thing I forgot to do.
I think the leaves are working better. I'd get and you got a few hanging off here, so I think you're getting the idea.
Hmm.
I still like this little design on here.
Thank you.
Cool, man. And when we go into the natural texture thing, you'll get some other ideas for things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The only problem when we start doing crazy brushes is it can really bog your machine down, but sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so let's look at this. Good job, you guys. Let's look at this. This is fairly simple or straightforward. I used to spend a lot of time on this, and again, I'm just not going to do that. Because you'll get it, you'll get the point, and then if you want to pursue it more, you can. So I put this up on whatever you call it. Canvas, yeah?
Yeah.
And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make another layer. Oops, let's move this over. Lock it, I'm up here. I'm going to make a quick, and don't make it all as one thing. Let's make a green line so I can see it. Damn it. And I'll do this real simple. And then I would do this separate and that separate, but let's just start with this. It's a horrible apple. Good enough for now. Now, I think I can do this. I think I can fill it with a color and still do this. Let's see. So that's my local color. Does everybody know what the local color is? It's just the color it is, right? It's red, right? Then I'm going to go up here in my tools here, and right there is your gradient mesh tool. So I'm going to go here, click here, and I'm just going to click. It's going to give me verticals this way that are going to sort of, oops, I didn't want to do that. They're going to sort of, why is it giving, oh, I don't want this. And it's sort of figuring out how it rolls across this. Now, if I go this way, it starts giving me these. And I could come in with my direct selection tool right here, and I could move these around if I want. But what I'm going to do is, like, let's say this section here. Now, here's another trick. You can hold your, you want to do this direct selection tool, but you can hold, shift, and you can select multiple points. But if you try and go in here and swoop over them, you can't, unless I go to up here to outline, which is Command Y, and I go Command Y, and I go, and now I can drag and loop over a bunch of them. Okay, so let's just say I pick that. Go back, Command Y, and now I'm going to come over here and just go, okay, there's my, and this is a horrible example of this. I'd have to add in a few values and things to make that go smooth and pick the right color, right? And sometimes, by the way, when you're sampling off a photo, it's not always going to give you the best color, right? And usually it'll put you in the ballpark. Sometimes it'll nail it. And then I'm going to have to come in here and start going, I don't want that one. Oops. Oh, I'm on the black arrow too. You don't want to do that. Holding shift, and I'm just starting to pick the ones that I think will be the shadow, let's say the shadow value. And then I can come in here with this, and I can go, well, maybe this edge right here needs to be a little more that. And I can start adding a value in there to get, so I've gotten some people just do this like really perfectly. It's something you need to know how to do and whether or not you want to go down the rabbit hole. Now, remember those ones I showed you guys where they were like photorealistic portraits? This is the tool they used, okay? Now, the other thing you can do is you can get your white arrow tool. And as long as these are white, that means they haven't been selected, and I can move these around. And start to dial it in. And like, you don't want these hard edges like this one I just got. So maybe that's partly because I shoved that thing over there. So maybe there's like an in-between value that I can find. And I start dialing it in, then I'll just show you how to do this little stuff over the top. Now, another thing is this little divot right here. You might want to come in here and go, that's going to be here. Here's my handles. I can screw around with those. And I dial in that shape a little bit. And then I might come in here and start to build that little edge shape on there. And I'd highlight this. Now I'd have to come back here and I might need more points in here. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, I can add points in there. So that's this little tool right here where it says pin tool, then you drop here, it says add anchor point, right? Or I can delete an anchor point, right? But in here, then I might go, well, I need this to not be that color. I need it to be, oops. I need this to be, is that not taking? That's weird. Oh. Oh, it's too high up. I'd have to put another one in there probably. Oh, it should be here really. For some reason it's not changing my color. Or it's also probably that it just has a, there, that's starting to work a little bit. It is changing it, it's just, it's too thin a sliver. So I might add another one here. For some reason it's not changing my color, which I'm not understanding, but it should. Okay, but you can see how I'm starting to build that, right? So just look at the shapes, make big changes. Or big, I want to get those big shapes in, but try and get them to the transitions to look pretty good. Does that make sense? You don't want it to sort of go to this big blast like that and then boom over to this. You want to get a few transitions in here, and it might just be adding. Let's see something here. Hang on. No, okay. I don't know why these three aren't changing. I think it might be, hang on. I think I'm missing something here, hang on. I think that's why. Yeah, I think that's why. Let's see. I'm gonna have to see why it's doing that because I think it's I can't remember. Might be I want to add more points to it, but I just have to add them in a different way, and I can't remember. I'll look it up, or I'll remember right after this. See, that's plus. Well, that's minus. There it is. Pretty sure I have to use the. Yeah, that's weird. I'll figure that out. I'll put it on Canvas. I forgot. I don't know why I'm going blank on adding points. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
And I'll put on there. Well, that's not. See, that's a nice edge right there. And I'd probably get some right in here, and I'd highlight that edge just like it is right there. And don't just rely on this, use your eye to kind of knock in the values. Does that make sense? So when you want to put a vertical, you're just clicking a vertical part, right? And it'll go around. And then when you want to go horizontal, you're just going along the other side. Does that make sense? And you can keep adding things in here too. Look. So I could come in here and go, I want more. And you come up here and add more. Or here. And that is probably how you solve this problem right here is you just add in more, like here. And then sometimes it has a hard time discerning it's going across. So that's a little more. So if you want to add points or, more lines, more points, more, where you can add more information, you just add more verticals and horizontals. Does that make sense?
I do have one
No, there's-
question.
Huh?
I do have one question.
What's that?
I've noticed when you're doing the message, just like basically a straightaway, is there a way to make it circle like
What do you mean
You're
circle?
when you're adding an edge? Like specifically on the top where the gray is?
Yeah.
You turn that more round, or is it strictly on the four sides? It has to be a square.
Well, I don't have any squares. So I'm not understanding the question, I think. Yeah?
Never mind.
No, I want to know what it is.
I'm probably thinking of it like a sphere. That's probably why.
Well, yeah, it is a sphere. Right?
Yeah.
So if we go, it would just be the same drill. Right? So look, an apple is a sphere. I mean, you know, when you're talking about drawing or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Hopefully I'm somewhat answering that. I don't want to spend more than probably Monday talking about this, and then we'll move on. Does that make sense? Because I like to get this out of the way. There's like 2 or 3 tools in here. I want to make sure that you got, you know, we talk about them, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on them. Yeah. And again, I used to spend like, you know, a little bit of time on this, and then I went, there's better things to spend the time on. This is one of those things where I just go, if this is your thing, cool. You could just like dive into it and do it. But I mean, this is basically how it works. Make sense? Due Monday. I'm going to I'll put it up as an assignment. I'll grade these, which are probably all A's now that I think about it. And then we'll move on Monday. Yeah. We'll go over these and then we'll move on. Okay. Yeah. Okay, you guys. I'm gonna let you guys go and start this so you can dick around with it a little bit over the weekend, so you're not just trying to do it all at once. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, if you want to loop over multiple points, go Command Y and go to wire mode or to preview mode, right? For some reason, preview will let you do a lot of things you can't do when you're out of preview. If you try and loop over those things, it'll just grab all of them and it'll move them. Okay. And if you do it in preview, then you can just loop over them and that's it. Okay. Okay. You got, great job, you guys. I'm super stoked with it. Okay.
Thank you.
You guys are already getting textures and all that kind of stuff. Usually I didn't used to do that for quite a while, you know, but now I'm sort of moving forward a little more. And it also depends on the class, how they're grasping it and all that. And then I will try and see I'll try and look up what my next project will be in here. Because I like to give you guys a heads up so you can start thinking about it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then when we get to it, you're like, you know, because what I'm hoping you do is you go, ooh, I want to do this. I want to do something like this. You know, if I tell you what it is. And again, I leave the projects pretty wide open in here creatively. Okay.
Cool.
All right, you guys. I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. Bye.
Don't drink too much.
Have a good one.
Josh.
Kisses.